Let's come back home and take you to Cape Town, where the Minister of Higher Education, Science and Technology, Blade Nzimande, is set to give a keynote address at the opening of a public exhibition of the Energy Observer. It's a hydrogen-powered vessel which has been sailing around the world since 2017. South Africa and France are working to strengthen the partnership on the just energy transition, and the aim is to support the Republic's decarbonisation efforts. Erin is following the minister about, and you can tell us where we are in the process at this hour, Erin.
We are right here by the public exhibition for the Energy Explorer, which has been traveling all around the world since 2017. Minister Blade Nzimande has just had an introduction from Louis-Noel VVS, who is the General Manager, who spoke on Newzroom Afrika a little earlier. The Minister is currently doing a photo op with some students who are also coming to see this exhibition about this carbon-neutral, hydrogen-powered vessel. Minister, you've just had a tour through the dome. Welcome to Newzroom Afrika. Tell us some of your thoughts about hydrogen energy in the South African context.
Well, we are quite focused as a country in becoming one of the major producers of hydrogen fuel cells, because we've got all the components that are critical. We've got the platinum group of metals that are very important. We also have got the wind and the sun. But much more importantly, we've got the Hydrogen Society Roadmap, which is our direction, over the next 20, 30 years, traversing this whole area of producing hydrogen fuel cells as the alternative to our economy. My Department of Science and Innovation is leading that Hydrogen Society Roadmap, which includes, by the way, the Hydrogen Valley, from Limpopo to Durban, and in that valley we will actually be producing a whole variety of things that we use powered by hydrogen fuel cells.
Minister, obviously there's a lot of anxiety about the just energy transition and what it's going to mean for jobs. How do you negotiate that with this drive for hydrogen as a South African energy source?
Well, as you know, the President has set up a presidential, firstly, climate commission, which one of its tasks is actually to look at climate mitigation, but also within the context of a just energy transition. And also there is a partnership within that context between business, labor and government and academia to actually look at the whole issue of a just energy transition. It's going to be challenging, because what we need is that we must leave no one behind. We must also try and save jobs. But part of doing that is to raise the level of education of our population.
Most certainly. You think of a province like Mpumalanga, so many families for generations have depended upon the coal trade in order to keep bread on the table. How do you quell the fears of people in that sector, perhaps working with labor, when it comes to discussions around hydrogen and other energy sources?
Well, as government, we have to work very closely with communities. That is why we also have got this partnership with labor, partnership with the private sector, which also involve government as well as science. For instance, what we are already doing as the Department of Science and Innovation is a project, which actually captures the carbon from the coal power stations and converting that into flue gas, which we also convert into fertilizers, which now begins then to provide other job opportunities within the value chain of trying to decarbonize and even using carbon itself, to actually create new jobs and so on. Obviously, the whole issue of renewables will also have to focus on Mpumalanga, in the sense that we have to, as we decarbonize, we are also creating new jobs and actually training workers and so on. As I say, the big challenge we have is that We are not going to have a just transition if we have got an uneducated population. We need at the same time to focus on raising the standard of education, which is what government is trying to do in terms of what we are doing with schooling as well as post-school education and training in terms of bursaries and scholarships and so on, as part of raising the level of education. But government is committed that we also move at a pace that takes into account our own context. We can't be expected to move like developed countries. In any case, the developing countries are not responsible for the damage that we have caused, to our planet Earth. So we must also take into account the fact that much as we want to move, but we must not move at a pace that makes us actually to have lots of people losing jobs and so on. The pace in itself must be part of a just energy transition.
I suppose with higher education, obviously having a functional NSFAS that is working above board is really important. Let's not get into that fray right now, Minister. But it speaks volumes to have someone from Cabinet here today as we see this vessel docked here, the public exhibition opening. What are your views on the newest member of the Cabinet, our Energy Minister, and the powers he's been given and his work towards dealing with the energy crisis in South Africa?
Well, from the standpoint of my own portfolio, we've just agreed with the Minister of Electricity that, for instance, we have to work together in terms of supporting him in relation to skills development. For instance, as we transition to solar energy, we need to be training new kinds of artisans. That is what we are now beginning to engage very seriously with the Minister of Electricity, that we have to have a partnership between the two departments, as well as bringing in our SETAs, the energy and water SETA, the manufacturing SETA, and other SETAs who are quite big in producing artisans, in supporting the production and maintenance of solar energy infrastructure.
A beautiful vision, Minister, but if SETAs and NSFAS are not functional and they are addled by corruption, they're not going to be able to fulfill this vision.
No, NSFAS is functioning very well. It's got challenges which we know, which relates largely to its capacity for more advanced information technology. But it's not only NSFAS, it's also our institutions, because NSFAS functions better if there is much more closer and smooth information sharing between institutions who qualifies for NSFAS and then NSFAS itself. I'm less worried about that. Much as we have got challenges, I'm quite convinced that we will overcome those challenges. Our SETAs have got challenges as well, but they are also doing some excellent work. Some of our SETAs have set up new skill centers in rural areas where our young people are now going to have access actually to artisan training and training in other occupations. All those, I see them as challenges rather than as obstacles or as something from which we must just actually give up and so on. I think that pulling the SETAs together, which is what I've been trying to do over the years, and successfully so, bringing SETAs to work closely with TVET colleges, for instance, is another very important objective, and we have made lots of advances. We are also now introducing in our TVET colleges entrepreneurship programs. We are also introducing now, we plan to introduce innovation hubs, and the SETAs are supporting the training on that particular score. What we have really done to pull together our post-school education and training institutions over the past 15 years is something that gives me confidence that we're going to move and be able to benefit from initiatives like the one we are seeing today.
Lastly, and just back on that initiative, Minister, I know your handlers are getting antsy. We've had the French ambassador underlining bilateral relations in pursuit of a just energy transition. Any comment quickly on that and South Africans' engagements with France over this?
Yes, actually we've got engagement on the science side with the EU. We also have got engagement on the training side of things. For instance, we've got very good relations with France. We've got very good relations with Germany. As a matter of interest, German companies that have got operations here in South Africa, many of them have opened their workplaces for our TVET college students and graduates to actually be able to get experience. So bilateral relations with France is very good, and it's something that we seek to exploit further for the benefit of strengthening especially our skills development systems.
Minister, there is a ribbon waiting for you to cut it. You've been very gracious with your time. Thank you. A sense there, not only of the partnerships between South Africa and France, but the Minister's own views on science, innovation, technology, training for South Africans to serve the pursuit of a just energy transition. He's emphasizing pace is important, bringing people along and ensuring protection of jobs in places, for example, like Mpumalanga.
Thank you very much to Erin Bates.